So about a year ago, Alex Hormozi released a video talking about his full email marketing strategy, the kind of results he has gotten from it, what works for him, all of that. In that video, he gave some pretty good email marketing advice, but he also gave some not so good email marketing advice that may have worked for him, but will likely not work for you. I run an agency that helps businesses and entrepreneurs grow their email marketing revenue to 6 figures per month and beyond. So I've seen what works for the average business. And in this video, I'm going to break down some of his advice, what I think works, what I think you might need to modify for your own business in order to make it work. So if you're interested, let's get into it.
How often should you send email, and to whom should you send it? Big picture, after talking to the best email marketers I knew before deciding to start my newsletter, number one is the perfect cadence seems to be around 3 times a week. All right, now again, I don't like rules, and if you hate rules as much as I do, then nothing is a rule. All right, you could send 2, you could send 1, whatever. But most people found that basically the more often you email, the more you will convert. It's kind of like more content, but there is a spot where people are like, I'm getting bothered. But the thing is that's where I feel like putting more effort into making the emails high quality pays dividends. Because think about it like this. If you send someone stuff that always makes them money, then how much would they like you to send them? Tons. And so that's why I'm a big fan of, like, I don't really have promotional emails per se. I'd rather just have every email be valuable and then just say like, hey, if you found this valuable, you can go here. And that way I don't have to balance like what's my give ask ratio or anything like that. It's like, I'm just gonna only purely provide value here, just like content. And if you want to take next steps towards doing or working with us or something like that, then you click the link that's made easily and available to you.
So there are a couple of things with his take here that I agree with some, I don't necessarily agree with some others, and I'll get into all of that. But first of all, I like his approach of wanting your emails to be valuable. However, I don't like the term give value because it often denotes that you need to give content without selling. And that's not a very, very profitable approach for a business whose whole existence is to make sales. You want your customers to know there's something for sale. You don't want to shove it down their throats and force them, but they need to know it exists. So I like being valuable. I like using the term being valuable instead of giving value in email. So that's the very first thing I like. The second thing I like is I like his approach or his sentence where he said, there's no hard and fast rule, right? These are the things he does. You don't have to do it. It just works for him. I like that because not everything he's saying would probably be optimal for you. And this brings me to the third thing in his statements, which is the optimal number of times to send email is 3 times a week. And I strongly disagree with that. I'm going to explain why. So he says the optimal time is to send emails 3 times a week. Now, I have a whole email system and there's another video you can watch for that. But my whole email system is on building a relationship with your lists. The same way you build a relationship with a partner in real life, it is the relationship that drives sales. So if you think about why you even like anybody on the internet, say somebody like Alex Hormozi now, it's because you have built a relationship with him just through watching his content or through hearing about him, where you trust him to be an expert on the subject. And that's the same thing you want to achieve with email. However, what's the best way to build a relationship? What kind of cadence do you need typically to build a relationship in real life? You need a daily or as close to daily as possible contacts with the person, communication. And that's very, very, very key for your email. So for one, it just builds a stronger relationship if you send emails daily, right? So my own system is heavily based on sending emails every day. Once a day is fine, right? You don't have to force them to read, but you have to show up in the email every day or as close to daily as possible. Now here's something else to think about. Alex probably has, I don't know how many he has. I think he has probably like 2 million followers on Instagram. Probably has like, I don't know, maybe like 500K or so on YouTube. And he's posting on YouTube 4 to 5 times a week. 4 to 5 times a month, sorry. And he's posting on Instagram 3 to 4 times a day. See, when people tell me that they can't send emails every day, somebody's posting 3 to 4 times a day on Instagram. Why can't they send 1 email a day? Right? Here are the assets he is working with. Meaning, every day, his posts get an average of like 300K views to like 700k views per day, each of his posts. Meaning he has this number of people. His YouTube videos also have like an average of like, let's say 300k views. So he has this number of people that hear from him on a weekly basis. And you probably don't have anywhere near these assets. Meaning you can't do what he's doing in terms of frequency of email. You need much more frequency. Meaning, in my opinion, you need sending emails every day, 1 email a day. And I'm not just saying this, I've worked with clients, and some of the simple things we do is move their email from 3 times a week or 1 time a week to 7 times a week. And in one of the cases, we're able to grow average revenue over 3 months by 40% without doing much else other than increasing frequency. Like, you don't have to do any other thing. And by increasing frequency, you increase revenue by 40%. What else can you do that's so simple and give you such a high return?
As I think about email, the objective of the email has one of 2 purposes. One is to increase the likelihood that this person purchases in the future, or that they purchase. That's fundamentally it. And so it basically has the exact same objectives as content. And so it's just a different form of content consumption, except where you can guarantee that you get delivery. Whereas when you make a post, the algorithm decides who gets to see it. When you send an email, basically your past performance determines whether or not they get to see it.
So yes, that's solid advice. It is a form of content distribution where you can more guarantee the number of people that are going to see your emails. However, I don't like that he framed it just as content, because email is more geared towards promotion, meaning you can sell better via email than you can with social media. So if you're coming with an approach of the same way you approach content on social media with email, you're likely going to be making some mistakes that are going to be costing you money both in the short term and in the long term. So yes, he's right, but then slight modification there.
Part of the reason I actually didn't send emails before is that I'm so selective with your attention. I don't want to waste it ever. And so I would rather not send you something at all rather than send you something bad. That's number 1.
I agree and I disagree also. So understandably, you want to be respectful of your readers' time and attention. So his own solution, at least then, was that he would rather not send anything than to send something that is not good. And that's a way of thinking about it. But I think a better approach is to be intentional and to add it to your business overall system, to write marketing emails that are actually good, right? It's not about not writing anything because you can't do something good. It's about forcing yourself to do something good on a consistent basis. So the approach, my modification would be, make it as part of your system where you write a certain number of emails per week and they have to be good. Enforce the standard. Don't just let it slide and say, I'm not sending out an email because I couldn't make it good. So that's what I would say. But then overall, good mindset around that, yeah.
So first things first, everybody wants to talk about how much you can make from email, but no one talks about unsubscribing, right? No one wants, it's like the dirty other, oh yeah, people unsubscribe. Every time you send a communication out, there's gonna be people who unsubscribe. And I don't see unsubscribing nearly as negatively as other people do. And I'll explain why. When I look at our people who show up to workshops, a lot of times they are people who unsubscribed. So it's not an insult. It's like they know who I am and they're in. I don't see it as a negative per se. Also, every single day, thousands of people unsubscribe from my Instagram, thousands of people unsubscribe from YouTube, but I just have more people who subscribe. And so I just see the process of advertising is letting people know about your stuff. And so if someone unsubscribes, they absolutely know about you and your stuff. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to buy. It just might not mean that that form of communication or that particular inbox they opted in with is the one that they want to use. Fine, no big deal.
So yeah, some good advice there. Unsubscribes are not bad. However, I'm even more aggressive with it than he is. I think unsubscribes are actually good, right? If you do everything right, if you are not a spammer, if you didn't buy a list, unsubscribes are good. And for a couple of reasons. One, like he said, you don't want people on your list that don't want to be there. You don't want to keep people hostage, right? But then think of it as you would think of it in real life. If you want to build a relationship with somebody, you want to get a partner, all of that, you go on dates and it seems like this person isn't really interested in you. Do you want to force the person to be in a relationship? Do you want somebody who doesn't want to be with you to be stuck with you? Right? It's the same mindset you carry to email. The ideal should be people are on your email list because they choose to be there. So they also have the freedom to not be there. whether or not they are going to buy from you in the future. People leave lists for different reasons. Even if it is because they don't like you, it's fine. It is a good thing. Let them leave, because you're not keeping them hostage. You're making space for more people that probably would like what you want. Because at a certain point, the more your list is, the larger your list is, the more expensive it is to send out emails. And you don't want people on that list who don't want to be there. So unsubscribing is actually a very, very good thing in my own way of thinking.
Number one, on the subject heading, I thought a lot about this because on some hand, there's a lot of internet marketers and digital guys who, they split test the hell out of their subjects. And I thought about this more as like a podcast where it's like podcast episode X and then it just keeps going. Because my thought, I'll explain, was if I can basically develop the brand of Mosey Money Minute to be very strong, then eventually we'll get to the point where independent of what I have after Mosey Money Minute, when people know that they always get value in the past when they read it, they'll just click. Going back and forth on this, I was like, I want to build the brand of my email to be strong. And so on one hand, you could say, well, if they know it's from you, then that could be the brand. But we send other emails as well that are not Mosey Money Minute. So I wanted Mosey Money Minute to have its own kind of like little space in someone's mind.
So I get where he's coming from. And I agree with him on the brand of Mosey Money Minutes. Was it Mosey Minutes Money? Was it? Yes, Mosey Money Minutes. He wants to build that brand to be strong. I agree with him. He has a very, very good point. However, I would have said it's probably wiser to just have the Mosey Money Minutes in the sender name instead of in the subject line. You can have Alex Hormozi. So let's say Alex Hormozi, and then you can now have Mosey Money Minutes directly there, so that your subject line is freed up for you to actually sell the content of the email. Instead of putting it directly in the subject line. But that's a very, very good point.
Think about everything in terms of feedback cycles and reward. And so I want to reward every action that someone takes. And so if someone first reads the email, then if they've been rewarded in the past for Mosey Money Minute, they'll click and they'll open it. Now I need to reward them for that. So a lot of people think about behavior as what happened before that triggered someone to do something. But that's actually not how behavior works, and that's been proven. The way behavior works is that you did that thing because you did it another time in the past and rewarded for it. So if you want to see why someone does something, look at what happens after they do it. Because when you do a behavior, you do it to get something to change or to improve your life in some way, right? Words I like, I start the email here because I want someone, even in less than the time it takes to read the email, to immediately be rewarded for clicking and opening. For me, a quote or tweet is something that's in one glance, they can be rewarded for taking the first action. That's the first thing I'm doing.
To be honest, I wouldn't bother with this, right? It is good. Like, the psychology behind it is solid. Yes, when you reward somebody for an action, they are more likely to take that action again. But it's just overcomplication. You don't need it, right? You don't need to immediately reward them. In fact, what you probably want to do is you want to train them to read your emails to the end. That's probably a better use of your time if you would ask me. But then I understand why he does it. I don't think you should do it personally.
So this is one that I actually learned more recently for our stuff, so maybe embarrassing, whatever. Optimizing preview text for the email. So when you look at all of your emails, you see the bold subject, and then after that, you've got like that little bit of text afterwards. That little bit of text is kind of like when you hover on a YouTube video and it shows you a couple of clips, it's preview, right? And so that preview has a big impact on how many people choose to open the email. And so right now, it has, for us, had an increase of 24%. And just to give you an idea here, 24% of people, so 1 out of 4 people, check that text before they even open. And so that's what they reported. I would bet it's even higher than that. It takes 10 seconds to do this and is so worth it, because if you don't, then it'll just take the first 150 characters of your email, which might have just been like, hey, John, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not valuable, right? And so we want to pull the most valuable nuggets forward, especially things that induce curiosity.
This is actually quite solid advice. Optimizing the preview text can do a lot to increase the opens in your emails. I personally don't do it. I should probably put more thought into that. I don't do it. I don't have any data around that, but just logically thinking about it, if you're able to induce curiosity, both to the subject line as the preview text, you would have more opens, but I need to do a better job of that myself.
So I told you that I'm trying to build the brand of Mosey Money Minute, and so I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of short-term open rate so that long-term, the audience that becomes hardcore about Mosey Money Minute will just always open the Mosey Money Minute. But even so, the things after Mosey Money Minute will still have an influence on that. And so having an A/B split test for your headline or your subject will test for a small percentage, an A/B, and then once it has the winner, we'll then send the rest of the list, the winning combination. And this, more and more platforms are getting intelligent about this. Like YouTube does the same thing for thumbnails and headlines. Because some of you guys are like, I see you're switching this out. It's like, duh, there's a split test tool. Of course we're gonna split test it. But the same thing works for email.
So this is something else I disagree with Alex on. Split testing your subject lines is good. I mean, it can have results. However, you need to know that for you to perform any statistically significant test, what you need is what? Data. I need a ton of data. You can't split test between an audience of 10 people. That's not relevant. It holds no water. So you need a lot of data. Now, Alex has, I think, about 100,000 people on his lists. So he has enough data to split test probably significantly. But most people don't have that. Let's assume most people have 10,000 email list subscribers. If Alex says he wants to split test the subject line, so let's assume he split tests with 20% of his list. So he sends traffic to 10,000 people, sends a different subject line to 10,000 people. Then the winner, he now sends the performing subject line to the remaining 80,000 people. That makes sense, right? But let's assume you have 10,000 people and you now do a test to 1,000 people. Already, this is way too small to say that this subject line is better than the other. It doesn't matter, right? And out of these 1,000 people, maybe now 500 of them will open, like 500 people will actually open the email. Like, it doesn't matter. Then you will now come and send the winner to 8,000 people. Like, your test is not significant. I wouldn't bother with it. Just write a subject line that you believe is persuasive. Keep improving how well you write, and it wouldn't matter, right? Another thing to note about testing is that many times I'll write the same email with the same subject line, but send it like 6 months apart or 1 year apart to the same lists. And the same email, just at a different time. So let's say email 1 and email 2, but they are the exact same. But I send them like 6 months or 1 year apart. And this one can make like $8,000 in sales, right? While this one can make like $200 in sales. It's the same exact email. I changed nothing, but they have vastly different results. Why? Because email is not a medium where you can perform a pure test. There are so many things changing. People are unsubscribing, people are subscribing. Sometimes your email doesn't get delivered as well as other times. Things going on in the world. Maybe some people have more emails in their list at this time versus another time. It's not a pure test medium, meaning any test you do, even subject lines, A/B tests that you do, is not going to be so accurate, right? So I wouldn't bother with it. I wouldn't advise anybody to bother with it unless you have such a large list that you can get actually accurate results. But for most business owners, you can safely ignore that. It's not going to affect you either way. If you follow my system of sending emails every day, that is.
And so if you're sending, let's say, 1 email a week, then you might as well maximize the likelihood and effectiveness of that email. And so if you're B2C, it seems like Mondays and Tuesdays tend to be better days overall. And so there's an average increase in open rate of about 18% for B2C, so business consumer. Now, if you're B2B, this is kind of interesting, it's Wednesday. That's actually the bigger lift day. And actually is about comparable to the B2C lift. So I see that as like, there's just a time period for more people that consumers are more distracted, call it, on Mondays and Tuesdays, whereas business people, B2B, are like working Mondays and Tuesdays. Like they get to catch their breath on Wednesday. Now, I could just be adding a narrative to this, who knows? But fundamentally, the stats are there, and this is across zillions of emails. I got that from Neil Patel. He's an awesome marketer. And so he shared that with me in terms of days. The last tactic is around what time of day. So that was days of week, but the next is time of day. And so it seems like there's 2 sweet spots that occur. And one is basically right before lunch and right after lunch. So it's like 10 to noon and then 1 to 3 are the kind of like these sweet spots where they open. The first thing in the morning, I think, is typically a very competitive time because there's so many actual real business emails that they're going through that they're like, well, I gotta deal with this stuff first. If you kind of slide in those times, you tend to see bigger improvements. Now, that'll be more specific for businesses that are local. When you're across time zones, I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it. For us, we do all of our stuff off PST, but I know that I've got a 3-hour window if I'm just looking at US, and if half my audience is international, which it is, that's gonna be more relevant for the people who only transact in one time zone.
So here's another thing I disagree with Alex on. The time you send emails, to be honest, it doesn't matter as much. Now, maybe if you're sending 1 email a week or 1 email a month, you might want to optimize that time. But I believe that is even a losing strategy to begin with. You need that consistency, you need that frequency. And if you have that, the time or day that you send email doesn't matter as much, right? Now let's assume you say Wednesday by 2 p.m. is the best time to send emails. What happens now when all other marketers hear about that and now send emails at that exact time? So you have what? Like the list is bombarded at that time. That means automatically this time is no longer the best time to send emails. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't work. You don't have a best time and best day. So what happens? Do you think if you have 2 p.m. today, this week, which is last week in December or first week in January, by March, it will still be the same day and time? Of course not. Things have changed. Seasons have changed. There are different things your customers are thinking of. They're in a different phase of their business, all of that. It doesn't matter as much, right? My own rule of thumb is if your customers are awake, you can send emails. It doesn't matter. If you're sending them consistently, it doesn't matter. People will buy. So I have sent emails as early as 6 a.m. in the morning. I've also sent emails as late as 11 p.m. It doesn't matter. People would buy, right? What you need to be more focused on is writing emails consistently in a way that people actually want to open and read, so that it doesn't matter the time you send it. Even if they're on 100 other emails, they'll see your own, they will want to read it. That's where it goes back to building the brand of your email or your name, your sender name, your brand name, whatever, to be so strong that when people see it, they would actually want to open. So the day and time is not that important, to be honest. It isn't. Now, something else to think of about day and time is I have noticed many times where we send out emails and then people open the email on their phone, maybe when we send it out. So if we send email around 2 p.m., people will open the email on their phone around that, but then they'll come back later in the day and open it on their laptop, right? So maybe like 6 p.m., maybe after they're done from work or they are winding down. And typically, most of the purchases happen when they now reopen it. So which of this is now the best time? Is it the 2 p.m. or the 6 p.m.? The answer is we don't know. None of us know. Things change so much that there's no such thing as a best time. You just send your email. So far they are awake, send it, they will read it. So there you have it. A number of good things with Hormozi's email strategy, which, to be honest, it is way, way, way better than a lot of other advice I've heard. But there are also some not so good things that I don't think you should bother with. Now, if you want to find out my own exact strategy of growing your email marketing revenue to 6 figures per month and beyond, watch this video where I break down step by step, A to Z, how I help clients do that. So watch the video. Bye.